What is up, everybody? Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. And of course, you can find the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. As I mentioned yesterday, training camp coming up. We're going to be doing a lot of live shows, immediate reactions to training camp. Of course, training camp reviews every single morning. Ross Uglam's probably going to have some more stuff. So make sure you are subscribed, following, notifications are on. Push the little bell on YouTube. Make sure episodes are automatically downloading on your iPhone or your Android or whatever the heck it is that you are using. We appreciate that a ton. It really helps us out, and it makes sure that you don't have to count on the algorithm either, and that all of that stuff is coming to you guys organically. We appreciate that a ton. We today have finally made it. We're going to be going over players 30 through 1. We've been ranking the Packers from number 90. They still have one more open spot on their roster. I'm assuming they'll fill that right before training camp. But from number 90 to number 1, I'm going to quickly break down from 90 to 61 and then 60 through 31 that we've done the last 2 days, so we can kind of get you caught up really quick. If you haven't checked out those episodes yet, make sure to do so. And then we're going to be going from 30 to 1 today. So episode 1 from 90 to 61 was Alex Hale, Keith Randolph, Johnny Lumpkin, Isaiah Dunn, Brant Banks, Sam Brown Jr., JJ Lippy, Cameron Young, Kazir Brown, Trey Hill, Deslin Alexander, Jalen White, Nesta Jade Silvera, Tyron Herring, James Esther, Amar Johnson, Cornelius Johnson, Gregory Jr., Jonathan Baldwin, Tyler Cooper, Nazir Stackhouse, Messiah Swinson, Jamon Johnson, Julian Hicks, Taylor Elgersma, Sean Clifford, Omar Brown, Aaron Mosby, Christian Welch, and Kalen King. Second episode was numbers 60 through 31, John Fitzpatrick and Ben Sims, John Williams, Donovan Jennings, Micah Robinson, Travis Glover, Kadeem Telford, Matt Orzik, Malik Heath, Bo Melton, Kamal Haddon, Jacob Monk, Tyron Hopper, Daniel Whalen, McCole Hardman, Isaiah Simmons, Warren Brinson, Colby Wooden, Colin Oliver, Kingsley Enagbare, Baron Sorrell, Bretton Cox Jr., Chris Brooks, Emmanuel Wilson, Zane Anderson, Katano Ladapo, Savion Williams, Anthony Belton, Isaiah McDuffie, and number 31 was Luke Musgrave. And that brings us today to numbers 30 through number 1. Really excited to go through this. Of course, as always, we'll be interested on your take. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? These are difficult lists to put together. As I mentioned on our first episode, there's no lifeline, right? This is your list. We all are going to disagree on different values. You could look at this with different viewpoints. I know Bill Huber's list is the most important 90 players for 2025. Mine's just ranking them from from worst to best, I guess, from 90 to 1. So again, we all look at this a little bit differently, but I think it's a fun exercise nonetheless. So let's kick things off right away with number 30. I'm going Marshawn Lloyd here. And this is maybe a little bit, I don't even know if I want to say wishful thinking, because I think wishful thinking need even be higher on this list, but we have very little to go off of with Marshawn Lloyd's career so far. But we know he's incredibly talented. Multiple draft nicks had him as the best running back in the 2024 NFL draft, including Daniel Jeremiah. I thought he at times in training camp in 2024 looked like the best running back on the roster. And I do think he has the ability to bring a real spark to this offense. And Matt LaFleur has echoed that as well when talked about adding playmakers to this team. He unprompted brought up Marshawn Lloyd also. So this is somebody that has the ability to get the ball in his hands and make something spectacular happen. He's going to have to stay healthy, which was a roller coaster of nightmare emotions in 2024 with appendicitis and about 4,000 other things that went wrong for Marshawn Lloyd. Just could never get on the field, could never get healthy. Hopefully he used all of his injuries up in 2024. And now for the rest of his career, he's just insanely healthy. Pass protection, hanging onto the football were issues in his college career. Those are things that he's going to have to clean up as well. But if he is as advertised, if he's as good as he looked in training camp in 2024, he can be a weapon within this offense, and one that I am extremely excited for and hoping we get to see a lot more of in 2025. Number 29 is a really interesting player to try and rank, and that's Carl Brooks, the defensive tackle. If you put him 10 spots lower on this list, could probably understand that argument. If you put him a handful of spots higher, I could understand that as well. 2023, he flashed some real upside as not only a pass rusher, but somebody that just could penetrate into the backfield and cause chaos. This was somebody that I thought Green Bay found a real hidden gem not only when they drafted him, but then certainly what he followed it up with through the course of the regular season in 2023. 2024 just never quite felt the same as it was with so many of the sophomores last year. Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Carl Brooks. We can go on and on. It was just that way for a lot of players. Even LVN was worse in 2024. So that class, the class that is now in their third year, which includes Carl Brooks, we need to see them not only get back to where they were as rookies, but hopefully surpass that in their third year. It didn't work that way in 2024. Carl Brooks is one of those where if he takes that step, I think you found, again, a real gem here and somebody that can really impact the game in a positive way for Jeff Hafley's defense. The interesting thing is, if you would have asked me of all the players that were kind of carried over from Joe Barry's defense into Jeff Hafley's, who might fit the best, I would put Carl Brooks pretty high on that list, that he was going to make more of a seamless transition. Didn't exactly work that way. Still think there's a lot of talent and potential there, but we're going to need to see that from Carl Brooks this upcoming season. This is another really interesting one at 28. And if you want to put him higher because of the importance, as I know Bill Huber did, or lower because he just hasn't shown anything really through 2 years, I would totally get it as well. I'm putting LVN here at 28. And this probably meets it somewhere in the middle of his importance and his upside and his talent would be well above number 28 on this list. His expectations based on what he's done in his first 2 years of his career would probably be lower than this on the list. So I think this is probably meeting somewhere in the middle. I think this is a fair overall ranking for LVN. There are very few X factors on this team that are as important as what LVN will or will not give Green Bay this upcoming season. Man, if he takes a step and adds a real legitimate pass rusher opposite Rashawn Gary, this defense just takes, I think, a pretty significant step in a very positive direction. And if all of a sudden LVN just doesn't develop, he's a true bust, doesn't work out, worse than Nick Perry, more in the Jamal Reynolds sort of category, I don't think it's going to get that bad. I really don't. I think, it could be worse than Nick Perry, maybe more on like, who was the edge rusher that played defensive tackle and defensive end, the former second round pick. Man, that is going to bother the heck out of me. So now I have to look it up. I know it's Neil and I can't remember the entirety of the name for some reason, which is really, really stupid of me. Wow, it was really back a farther away than I was expecting. Mike Neal. That kind of sums up the Mike Neal experience in and of itself. But I could see it being more in that Mike Neal category where a couple plays here and there, good effort, set the edge a little bit, but just never gave you anything that you were really wanting, expecting, hoping for, etc. That to me is probably more where the trajectory is. Not as bad as Jamal Reynolds. Don't even think it's necessarily as good as Nick Perry right now, which would be a disappointment in and of itself. Not even anywhere near Rashawn Gary, and far ways away from Clay Matthews. I think he's more in that Mike Neal territory. I don't want him to stay in Mike Neal territory. That's not a great place to be. So at minimum, hopefully good Nick Perry. And I would love if he took that third-year jump like Rashawn Gary did. We'll see. It is a I'll believe it when I see it sort of thing right now with LVN. I think I'm again kind of in the middle with most Packer fans of I'm not expecting a real breakout here. Man, do I hope I'm wrong. But I also don't think he's bad. I don't think he's this terrible edge where if he's on the field, you're like, oh, get him off the field. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle of those two things. Again, kind of the Mike Neal experience, right? But I'm hoping for a lot more for him. And if it does happen, it would be a huge boost for this Packers defense. Number 27, I'm going Javon Bullard. And I think I'm higher on Javon Bullard than most. I think he has the ability to be a very good safety. I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity with both Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams patrolling the back end of the defense. I never was. If you go back to listen to my scouting report, my personal scouting report on Javon Bullard, a lot of people had him as one of the best slot players in that draft. I've never been a true believer in Javon Bullard, the slot player. So this is a interesting, bizarro no man's land to be in for me personally, because I'm higher on him as a player than I think most. I think he has to play a safety, but I don't think he's going to play safety. But I don't really like him a ton as a slot guy. But let me add one more layer onto that. I do think there's an avenue for him to play in the slot on earlier downs, more obvious rundowns, 12 personnel downs. I think a big nickel with him in there is workable. I just really don't want to see Javon Bullard in the slot on obvious passing downs. And the great news is, I don't think he needs to be utilized in that way. I think you have obvious passing downs for Valentine and Nixon on the outside with Hobbs in the slot. That should very clearly be your obvious passing down nickel defense. If we get to the point, and it could easily be this way with one injury, where you've got two corners and Bullard in the slot on obvious passing downs, I have a bit more concern in that situation. But I still think he's a very good player. I think he's very motivated to be a great player. I loved him coming out of college, and I think he's still going to take a pretty big step in year two. Number 26 is another one that's very, very interesting to rank. I'm going Malik Willis here. And this is like an interesting one where this might seem high for Malik Willis. Is he really the 26th best player on the Packers? Man, that dude went out and really significantly helped Green Bay win 3 games in 2024. If that's Sean Clifford, if that's heck, if Tennessee traded us either of their other 2 quarterbacks, if that's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, I don't think Green Bay's in the playoffs. I really don't. I think Malik Willis had a huge say in winning those 3 games against Tennessee, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville this past year. And here's the thing with Willis. I give Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich, that entire offense so much credit for how they were able to structure that offense with Malik Willis. They, in an extremely short period of time, with him not even being on the roster a few weeks prior, built a really remarkable offense that fit Malik Willis perfectly. There's no question about that. This was a offense where Malik Willis was legitimately set up for success in a significant way. All of that being said, you still have to go out there and execute. And every time Malik Willis was asked to make a big third down throw, a red zone play, a keeper on a read option, whatever that thing was, when he needed to make a play in those 3 games, he made it almost every single time. He took unbelievable care of the football. And he, again, when was tasked with whatever he needed to be, whether it was a runner, a passer, or anything in between, he took care of it. And not only that, his ability to run that offense, even just the spinner series stuff that they did with Jacobs and him and the receivers, like there's a lot that goes into that. He learned this playbook like on the fly coming over from Tennessee. It was a remarkable job by everyone, but Malik Willis deserves a ton of credit. I think he's very accurately ranked here at number 26 on this list. All right, number 25, Jordan Morgan. There's a little bit of a, sort of upside first round pick bias here. But as I've been talking about, I think Jordan Morgan's going to be a good, solid offensive lineman. There's always going to be people who are disappointed in that. Spent the first round pick, only got a good, solid offensive lineman. Green Bay usually does that in the 4th or 5th round, whatever. Good, solid offensive linemen are good to have. Maybe they overdrafted him. Maybe they didn't. We'll end up finding out. I don't think we can really glean anything from 2024 because even when he was in there, he was dealing with that shoulder issue that just kept coming up over and over and over again. I will say, I think coming out of training camp, he was probably set up to win the starting right guard spot. I think he was going to start over Sean Ryan. I really do. And then injuries kind of derailed that in camp and never really got healthy. He's going to be healthy in 2025, or at least start out that way. Hopefully it stays that way. And I don't even care if he starts out as the 6th offensive lineman. That ends up being the case, so be it. If it's Walker, Banks, Jenkins, and then Ryan and Tom from there, that's totally fine. He's going to end up playing this year. Green Bay's going to have injuries along the offensive line. His versatility is massive. I think you're going to see a really solid performance from Jordan Morgan this upcoming season. 24, appropriately, is Carrington Valentine. Man, I like Carrington Valentine. I know we're going to have recency bias with that play against Dallas Goedert in the playoffs. He has the ability, in my opinion, to be a much bigger playmaker than what we've seen from him on the field so far. In camp and I shouldn't say preseason, but in training camps and in practices, this is a player that consistently makes some pretty big plays. He's got a really great mind and instinct for the position of corner. And I just think as he gains more and more confidence and plays more and more reps, I think you're going to see him take off even more. I would not be shocked if we saw a pretty sizable step from Carrington Valentine, just getting the opportunity, being the legit, we'll see. But I think at least nickel corner, if they want to go big on base downs with Bullard in the slot, with Hobbs and Nixon on the outside, that could happen. But I still think Valentine's going to play a ton. And I think with that, in his 3rd year, with a bit more confidence, Also knowing that if he has a big year, he's going to be able to go into next offseason, kind of looking for that contract as he goes into his contract year. I think Valentine's in for a big season. And I think he not only is very important to this team, but I think he could be the one that if you're concerned about the corner position, if he takes that jump, I think all of a sudden you feel much better about that corner position. Number 23, I probably have him higher than he should be. I'll readily admit that. It was a rough 2024. I'll readily admit that as well. I'm still going Dontavian Wicks here. Here's the thing with Wicks. I get the drops. It was completely unacceptable in 2024. There's no two ways around it. I hope, I can't imagine that it's that bad in 2025. Even the second half of 2024 was better from Dontavian Wicks. And 2023 was legitimately really, really good. I'm hoping that first half of last season was just a blip on the radar. And I hope he's really taking this, Devontae Adams comparison to heart, and that his second year with all the drops had everyone upset just so he can have a massive breakout in his year 3 season. The thing with Wicks is that he's a really tenacious and aggressive blocker, and that's going to get him reps. The other thing about Wicks is that dude knows how to get open. There is nobody on this Packers receiving core. I mean, we'll see if Golden or Savion Williams can do it, but that has been here already that gets open at the level that Dontavian Wicks does. In fact, there are few in the NFL. He consistently finds ways to gain separation. Just got to catch the ball. My man, just catch the ball and you are a stud. It is the 1A thing at the position of being a receiver is you actually do need to receive and catch said ball. Man, if he just gets past the most basic principle and property of the position, I think he can be an absolute stud. But as I mentioned, it was at an unacceptable level this past year. Cannot happen again in 2025. And if it does just clean itself up and he plays much better from a pure receiving standpoint, you're going to see Dontavian Wicks much higher on this list in 2026. I am so happy about 2022 on this list, and that's Brandon McManus. I'm so glad we don't have a kicking competition, that we've got a chart through training camp. I'm so glad that we don't have to be like, oh God, Anders Carlson's coming up. Just close your eyes and pray. I'm just very happy that you have an experienced veteran kicker on this team. There's no guarantee. Kickers go through crazy highs and lows. You never know what's going to happen in any given season at that position. But I just know that going into the year, I feel 1,000,000,000% more comfortable with Brandon McManus going out there to kick and, hopefully being able to make his big kicks. I know he missed the one in the playoffs, but he was outstanding prior to that for Green Bay. And hopefully that's what we see again this upcoming year. 21 is going to be a controversial one, almost no matter where you put him on this list. That's Keyshawn Nixon. I don't know, just similar to how they don't really have a number one wide receiver. I don't think they have a true number one corner. But if they do, it kind of is Keyshawn by default. He's not my number one corner on this list, but he's probably going to get some pretty key assignments. We'll see if they kind of just play side by side or if they do move these players around at corner. Listen, we know he has special teams ability. We don't know if he's going to get out there at kick returner. I will say the last 2 years have been not as great as a returner as his, all pro season a couple of years ago. Or at least last year wasn't. I am hopeful that Keyshawn Nixon found his spot on the outside. I talked about this the other day, but 23 and 24, I think I had almost like a -5 grade on Keyshawn, or -4 point something grade on Keyshawn Nixon. In last year from like week 5 on when he was playing in the slot, it was +1 point something. It was a night and day difference, a massive negative in the slot over a little over a year period of time, and almost a full year of just on the outside was a legitimate, solid, positive grade for him. If that's just who he is moving forward, he's a good outside corner. I think his ball skills at the point of attack still need to improve a little bit, but you just don't bet against Keyshawn Nixon. Every single time that you bet against him, he finds a way to improve himself. He's not going to make it in the NFL. He's an undrafted guy. He made it 3 years with the Raiders. There was nothing super fancy about it. Doesn't get anything on the open market. Green Bay signs him for a vet minimum 1-year deal. Finds a way not only to make it as a first-team All-Pro kick returner, but finally makes himself into the starting lineup as a corner as well. all right, that's great, but slot corner's not going very well. All right, we'll move him to the outside and he becomes a legitimately solid to good corner. If you're saying, well, like, yeah, well, he can't be a Pro Bowl corner, just keep betting against this guy. And he keeps finding ways to kind of prove everyone wrong. Hopefully he does, and he continues to do so and continues to find an upward trajectory, even at the corner position. And that would certainly be a big win for Green Bay this upcoming year. Next up, another interesting one, Rasheed Walker. I really like Rasheed. I really do. I think he's a good starting left tackle. He's got a battle on his hands. This could be somebody that ends up being like the 40th or 50th if Jordan Morgan just wins the left tackle job and Rasheed Walker's on the bench as a swing tackle. And man, would that cost him millions upon millions of dollars in free agency this next year. Rasheed has about 24 million reasons per year to go out and have the best season of his career. We've talked about it. Dan Moore got over 20 million per year from the Tennessee Titans coming over from the Pittsburgh Steelers this past year. And in my opinion, Rasheed is just better than Dan Moore. Now, maybe somebody doesn't give the Tennessee Titans deal here and they look at that and be like, yeah, we're not going to do that again. But if Dan Moore got over 20 million, Rasheed Walker should get over 20 million. And that's a interesting position for him to be in. Go out and dominate, my friend. And you could be getting in that 23, 24 mil per year category from some team, whether it's Green Bay or somebody else. So he has every reason to be ultra motivated to go out and win that starting left tackle job and play the best football of his career. And if we do, I think we're going to see the best season yet from Rasheed Walker in 2025. Number 19 is a player that I liked on the offensive line just a little bit more than Rasheed Walker this past year. And that's Sean Ryan. Now, I think you can make an argument that Walker is maybe a little bit more important, the more premium position. But listen, every offensive line position is basically a premium position now. If you have one weak link, you're going to get exposed. I thought Sean Ryan over his 3-year NFL career so far has maybe been the player that has taken the most significant jump year over year over the past 3 seasons. You're going from somebody who came in as a 3rd-round pick and was an utterly disgusting bust in year 1. Came in out of shape, never got himself out of being anything other than the 53rd player on a 53-man roster that had basically no opportunity to even get active on game days, and then got suspended at the end of the year. It was a disastrous first year for Sean Ryan. Followed it up in year 2 with the ability to go in that platoon with John Runyon Jr. by the end of the year, which I think those reps were massively important for him being the starter in year 3. And while there were still some up and down moments and some volatility from week to week, he ended up still being a high +2 something player on my grades last year and was a real net, positive for the team overall. I really liked what I saw to Sean Ryan. And if he for the, 4th consecutive year, or I guess 3rd consecutive year, takes a jump, man, he could turn himself into a Pro Bowl guard. I really, truly believe that. Not to mention that he's in the same situation as Rasheed in a contract year and has probably 15 million reasons per year to go out and have a massive season. So very excited to see Sean Ryan this upcoming year as well.
Hey friends, I'm so excited to tell you about this new game-changing product that I've been using before a big night out. It's called Pre-Alcohol. Now, ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Prebiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered prebiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of that byproduct, not dehydration. That's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down, so just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, to drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Now listen, I get it. I was a bit skeptical about pre-alcohol initially myself, but I've now used it for a bachelor party, the college basketball tournament, and recently for a friend's epic 40th birthday party, and I'm telling you, it's the real deal. And guess what? Summer is here, which means more opportunities to celebrate the warm weather. And before that backyard barbecue brew, the glass of Pinot watching the sunset at the beach, or a cocktail by the campfire, do not forget your ZBiotics pre-alcohol. Drink one before drinking and wake up feeling great and ready to take on the next day and all that summer has to offer. So go to zbiotics.com/packaday to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code PACKADAY. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/packaday and use code PACKADAY Pack-A-Day at checkout for 15% off. Make sure to support our sponsors and use that code PACK-A-DAY.
Number 18, another one that could be higher or lower depending on how you view it. We just have nothing really to go off of at this point, is Matthew Golden, their first round pick. Man, if Matthew Golden comes in and makes a massive impact right away and just says, hey, I'm the best receiver on this team, oh, hell yeah. Like, that would be amazing. And he has every right to go and do that. Can make an argument that he's, at least in the conversation, the most talented wide receiver on the team. And they picked him in the first round for a reason after not taking a wide receiver in the first round in 17 billion decades. I'm really excited about him. I did think he had a couple rookie moments in minicamp, although I also thought that he looked the part in OTAs prior to that. I think this is somebody that can come in and step in right away and make an impact. I think his speed, his route running, the pacing within his routes, I think it's all there for him. I think he can pluck the ball out of the air. His hands look fantastic. Him and Jordan, I think, are going to get on the same page relatively quick. And if that happens, I think he can be a big-time performer this upcoming season. So hopefully this is even higher when we're going through Matthew Golden next year, when we're putting this list together. But for right now, I feel like number 18 feels right about right. Number 17 for me is Nate Hobbs. Big free agent signing. This is somebody that's going to step in. I mean, just think of it this way. Where would Eric Stokes have been on this list? 45, 50, somewhere in that range? My lowest graded Packer last year on the team. Nobody worse for my grades than Eric Stokes. And I really liked what I saw from Nate Hobbs. I think you're getting a good, solid, sound performer at corner that I think has the ability to even be better than that. We saw that earlier in his career. Health has really derailed him. He's got to stay healthy. He can't be you kind of released an injury-prone wide or corner in Jair and signed one in Nate Hobbs. He's missed a lot of time as well. So health is going to be the most important. But if he's out there, he's going to be a pretty significant upgrade from Eric Stokes and a player that I think Packers fans are really going to enjoy watching and just be somebody that you're going to have to work to complete passes on. That's all you can ask for. You're going to get catches from time to time. It's a really tough division with wide receivers, but he's going to make you work for every single completion. Number 16 is another one of these X factors where first round pick, flashes of brilliance. Maybe brilliance is a little bit extreme, but flashes of some really impressive play, but just a mystery box down in and down out and game in and game out. And that's Quay Walker. Appropriately, right as I was basically willing and ready to give up on Quay Walker in 2024, the next few weeks he went out and I thought played his best football of his entire career. He looked awesome. And he's one of these players that came over from the Joe Barry era and is now playing in Jeff Hafley's defense. I'm sure that took a little bit of time to transition and it felt like it clicked. And then those 3 weeks were awesome. And then he went out injured for a while. It was fine when he got back, but you could tell there was a little bit of rust from the injury. And if that 3-week window was the real Quay Walker in Jeff Hafley's defense, put him up in the top 11 on this list. Maybe not quite 10, but put him in the top 11. He has that type of ability. If it's just same old Quay, ups and downs, don't know what you're going to get, inconsistencies, probably move him down a handful of spots on this list. He's a very important player for Green Bay, a big-time X factor, and one the Packers really need to perform at that level that we now saw that he's capable of. We finally got proof of concept. It was awesome. And I'm really, really hoping we see more of that this upcoming season. Number 15 is another one where probably, quite frankly, the player that I had the hardest time placing, and him and one other that we're going to talk about here in just a moment as well, Romeo Doubs. I have no idea where to place him on this list. I'll be totally honest. If you want to take any umbrage with him being at number 15, be my guest. Umbrage away. I could put him 10 spots lower and be like, yeah, number 25 looks about right. This is probably on the high side. I don't know that I probably could have gone any higher with Romeo Doubs. I don't know if I'm just higher on Romeo or maybe just higher in general. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if I'm higher on Romeo Doubs than others are. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think he's going to have a very important role in this team. Don't think there's any chance that they trade him. And I think they need him to be that go-to player in some red zone and third down situations. I think you kind of have some unique specialists in whether it's Christian Watson, Matthew Golden, Dontavian Wicks, guys that do Jaden Reed, certain things well. I think Romeo Doubs has the ability to be that guy when you need something, you can go to him. I'm not saying upper echelon wide receiver or anything like that, but I just think he knows how to get open, good hands, same page as Jordan Love, veteran at this point. I think 2023 was just, 2024 was just a little bit bizarre for him. Go back to the playoffs. Dallas and San Francisco, he looked like he was ready to break out in a significant way. I don't think that breakout's ever going to happen for Romeo, but I think he's a good receiver. I think he's going to have a very important year for Green Bay. That's why I have him at number 15 on my list. Number 14 is a player that I loved over the first 10, 11 weeks of the season and then hit a rookie wall, but I think is going to be even better in year 2 is Evan Williams. I would be pretty stunned if we saw a second year regression from this guy. He is a hard worker, tape studier, cares about it a ton, puts the time, effort, and energy in. And I just don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas. I just don't think that's in his DNA. I talked about it on numerous occasions, his ability to come in rookie mini camp and really show that he already knew portions of the playbook. I was impressed by in 2024. And then immediately getting his name in the conversation at the starting safety job, playing really great football. Like I said, hit a little bit of a wall at the end. I think he can be right around, maybe not this year, but in the future, I think he can be right around a Pro Bowl caliber safety. I really, really do. And his pairing with Xavier McKinney, I think has the ability to be really one of the strengths of this team. So very, very high on Evan Williams and very much hoping that he continues his ascent because, like I said, I think that safety room can be special with Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams. Number 13, Aaron Banks. Really good, sound offensive lineman that, as I talked about in my kind of deep dive after I went back and watched every single snap of his, that first 7 weeks of 2024 in San Fran, I thought looked awesome. And if he can do that over the course of a season, the ceiling is Green Bay's best offensive lineman. If he would have played at that level that he did in the first 7 games over the entirety of last year, I don't know that Green Bay even would have been able to get him. But if he would have graded out as the best offensive lineman for Green Bay this past year. The onus is on him in Green Bay to get the best out of him. But the downside here is right around Sean Ryan. And Sean Ryan's at number 19. And I think the upside is closer to Elton Jenkins, who we will talk about in just a little bit. So I think he can even get higher on this list, kind of breaking even in between the two, Sean Ryan and we'll just say Elton Jenkins, who we'll talk about momentarily. So to me, 13 feels about right, but he's going to have to pay off that 4-year, $77 million deal, prove that he's worth it. I think he will. I really, really do. And I think he's going to be a pretty interesting and key piece along that offensive line this upcoming season. Number 12, man, Devontae Wyatt. Where the heck do you want to put this guy? This guy barely played 22 snaps per game that he played this past year. When he did, he looked pretty good. Thought as a pass rusher, he continued to show signs of improvement. He's got some real juice, but he's not an impact pass rusher. He's not a great run defender, and he barely plays 22 snaps per game. Somebody who just guaranteed $15 million for 2026. It's time. The time is now. Your first round pick, you were 24 when you came out. We need to see more from Devontae Wyatt this upcoming season. If you're more frustrated with Devontae Wyatt and think that, hey, this has not gone great so far, I get it. Number 12, probably a little bit aggressive on this list, but talent-wise, man, some of the things you see him do at his size, like it is a special ability. I need to see more consistency. I need to see him on the field more. I need to see him be better against the run. This is a first-round pick that just got $15 million guaranteed for next year, for 2026. Need to see more of it. Need to see better and more of Devontae Wyatt this upcoming season. Number 11 is the one that I talked about earlier as also being just the impossible to place on this list. And now I'm ranking them from worst to best player. Even this might be aggressive. It really probably is. But I don't know that I'm putting Wyatt or Banks or Dobbs or Quay or Hobbs over this player. It's Christian Watson. I don't know. That's not great analysis. It's not great podcasting, right? But I don't know. He's going to miss a good chunk of the season coming off a torn ACL and MCL. He can't stay healthy, but man, is he talented when he's out on the field. And when you get good Christian Watson, it's It's intoxicating. It gets like, oh my God, give me more of that. Just give, I want all of that. His ability, even without the ball in his hands, to take defenders with him, to block on the outside, and then the stuff that he can do with the ball in his hands and make big plays. He said, I think intoxicating is the best word for it, but it kind of is like that. Not to make another reference here, but it's kind of like that drug where you're like, I want more of it, but it's at the same time, it kind of always leaves you wanting more, just kind of disappointing you in the end. And to me, that is where we're at with Christian Watson. And now you're going to miss him for probably at least half of the season. I don't know. Maybe it gets back a little bit sooner. Ultra talented, lot of injuries, not always consistent. Where you want to put him on this list is a choose your own adventure. You could put Bill Huber, I know, had him at number 34 on the list. I don't even have an argument. Like, that's fine. I totally get that. Now, it's most important players for Bill's list for 2025, which when you're going to miss half the season, the importance, of course, just goes way down inherently. But regardless of what criteria you're using, if you want to put him 20 spots lower on this list, I would certainly understand that conversation. I just think from a pure talent standpoint and what he can bring to the team when he's healthy, I think he's higher on the list. But either way, very difficult player to place one way or the other. Number 10 through number 1, I start getting a lot more conviction with. I feel very good about where the rest of the list lies. Number 10, Elgton Jenkins. Got to get this whole contract situation figured out, but he's a really good offensive lineman. He can play multiple spots. I'm super excited about his transition to center. I think he's going to be a massive upgrade for Josh Myers, and somebody that I think is still going to play at a very high level, even at this stage of his career. He's fought through some injuries. Right now, he's fighting through some contract negotiation stuff. Just get him out there, get him playing center. It's going to be a huge upgrade, maybe the biggest upgrade on the entire team this year, going from Josh Myers to Elgton Jenkins. Number 9, I know he had a down year last year. We know injuries definitely played a part, but Kenny Clark is still a really good football player, a really important player for this team, and one that I definitely expect to bounce back. We've never seen Kenny have a year like last year where just never felt like he had the juice, never looked fully healthy, never quite looked like himself. And assuming he's healthy for this upcoming season, I don't ever think we're going to get prime Kenny Clark again, but I think we're going to get a much better player than we saw from the 2024 version. My guess is the 2024 Kenny Clark will be the worst Kenny Clark that we see at any stage of his career. I really, truly believe that. And I think it's going to be a much better Kenny Clark in 2025, which is why I think number 9 is right, not only for his talent and his upside, but expecting to bounce back. Even bad Kenny Clark wasn't bad last year. He was just average, fine, good. We just never seen that from Kenny. He's always been a solid step or two above that, and hopefully he can get back into form this upcoming season. Number 8's another one of these wide receivers of just where do you place them on the list? I think the world of Jayden Reed. I think he's an absolute stud. I think Green Bay did him a disservice more of not specifically trying to get the ball in his hands in the second half of last season. Did he have some drops? Absolutely. Did he at times need to do a little bit better job of getting open? Sure. But this is too talented of a player to have so few touches in the second half of the season, especially after the first year and a half that he had in the NFL. I don't think there's any way that Jayden Reed or the Packers allows that to happen again. I think he's going to be much healthier. No, he hit a little bit of an injury situation at the end of last year. And if that's the case, there's no reason for me to believe that we don't see at minimum the Jayden Reed that we saw through the first year and a half of his career. And I think he could even be a step ahead of that. So still extremely high on Jayden Reed and expect him to have a even better season than he's had in either of his first 2 years. And I was still pretty high on what he did the past 2 years from a grading standpoint. So think the world of Jayden Reed and think that the best years of his career are still very much ahead of him. Number 7, very controversial player, Rashawn Gary. Listen, I had him as my 3rd highest graded defender this past year. Just so happens he's going to be the 3rd defender on this list. PFF had him as their 3rd highest graded defender for players that actually played on their list this past year. He's not the number 1 guy. He's not the alpha. He's not the stud. He's not in that top 10 of pass rushers in the NFL. He's not going to get you 18 sacks. He's not going to be a game wrecker consistently. I get all those things. Still a really good player that has been solid to better than solid. He's been a really good player for Green Bay and somebody that consistently has been difference makers, probably too far, but just a needed piece along that defensive line, no question about it. Still had, I think, like 14 more pressures than anyone else on the team this past season, and is somebody that you're going to need. And I think Rashawn needs to play better. There's no question about that. I think he can play better. Just a couple of years ago, he had 80 some pressures. I think that was pre ACL, but 80 some pressures. He had 40 some this past year. I need to get him in that high 60s, low 70s at least this upcoming season. That should be the expectation for Rashawn Gary. But at minimum, still a very good player and one that Green Bay is very happy to have on this team. Number 6 is Tucker Kraft, the best tight end the Packers have had since prime Jermichael Finley. Run after the catch ability, blocking ability. I'll just say this. I think the thing that Tucker's working on in year 3 is his separation and route running ability. If he gets that, look the hell out. It's over. He's just too talented. He's going to run through you. He's fast. He has the intensity of, like 7 tight ends, and he is just scratching the surface of his potential. He's gotten better every single step of the way. There's no signs of slowing down. He wants it bad. He's hungry for it. And I would be pretty stunned if we didn't even see an upgrade from where Tucker Kraft was in 2024. And he was pretty damn good in 2024. I can't wait for upcoming season for Tucker Kraft. I think it's going to be something very special to watch. Speaking of which, another one that I think is going to be very special to watch for the remainder of his career is Edgerrin Cooper. I've said it. I think he can be the best linebacker in football. Probably not in 2025, but 2026, sure. And I thought there were flashes of it already as a rookie. Already there are draft picks this upcoming year that are being talked about in the top 10, 15 of the draft at linebacker. Guess what the comp is? Man, he looks like Edgerrin Cooper out there. He's already getting that level of love and respect, rightfully so. There's nothing else to say. He needs to be a little bit more assignment sure, do things a little bit more the right way. He's the freaky dude that you can take 7 wrong steps and still somehow be right because he's just that level of freaky. But if he plays it the right way and does it a little bit more assignment sure, it's just game over. He's going to be the best linebacker in football. And there's no guarantee that he gets to that, right? He's going to have to take that step, have to be a little bit better in the playbook, a little bit better with his tape study and those sort of things. But man, if he gets there, the talent is tantalizing. And I really, truly, really, truly believe he can be the best linebacker in the entire NFL. Number 4, Jordan Love. He is chock full of upside potential and already with a baseline that's just a really solid, really good quarterback. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what Jordan can potentially be. Maybe a little bit at the end of 2023. I think he can still be a solid step better than that. But this is the year. The time is now. It's year 6, year 3 as a starter. And I think, as I've said multiple times this offseason, this is the tone setter for Jordan Love moving forward. Whatever he is in 2025, there'll be versions slightly above or below that for the rest of his career. But I think this sort of etches it in who he is as a quarterback. Could that be top 5? Yes. Could that be number 18? Sure. But I think the difference there is massively important. We're about to find out a ton about him. I do think the injuries really hurt him in 2024. Knock on wood, hopefully he stays healthy in 2025. And I think we're about to see the world really catch on to exactly who Jordan Love is as an NFL quarterback. Number 3, Josh Jacobs. Unbelievable year. The offense went through him. He was able to put the team on his back at times. That run that he had against Philly just to try to keep his team in the game. The run that he had against Jacksonville that said, we're not losing this game. Man, what a fun season it was from him. I think completely even crushed my expectations for him this past year. Was so much better than he was in 2023 with the Raiders. Was closer to his 2022 season where he was just fantastic. And I think this offense is even going to be better with Jacobs in 2025 because I think they know how to utilize him more. And hopefully they have more counters and play action fakes and bootlegs to utilize and just get a little bit more cohesiveness and cohesion within the offense than what we saw this past year. But Jacobs did everything he was supposed to. He is a bruiser, a a Bulldog, and he is going to be still a player that I think leads this team in 2025. Number 2 is Zach Tom. I know people are going to say, you just said he was overrated. I just said he's not like the top 4-5 offensive tackle. He's not that first or second team all pro. I still think he's the second best player on Green Bay's team. He's the most consistent day in and day out. You know exactly what you're going to get. Tons of versatility. He's just a fantastic player. So I love Zach Tom. I think he can even continue to grow and get better. I think he's the ace of that offensive line. I always talk about a 5-man offensive line like a 5-man rotation in baseball. You need your ace. You need your top tier number 2, an up and coming guy. Then you can get away with like 2 solid starters after that. Zach Tom is this offensive line's ace, and I expect him to get a massive contract because of that in the next year or so. And last but not least, number 1, Xavier McKinney. Stud, upside, leader, perfect fit for Jeff Hafley's defense, unbelievable back-end player, changes the way that teams play. You can't throw in his direction, playmaker with the interceptions, every superlative under the sun, as advertised, still in the prime of his career. What an unbelievable signing by Brian Gutekunst. What an idiotic franchise in the New York Giants. Thank you for being dumb. Thank you, Green Bay, for being smart and picking him up. Love having him on the back end of the defense. It completely changed what Jeff Hafley was able to do. It completely made this a top 10 defense. It doesn't happen without Xavier McKinney. He's a stud. He's an alpha. He's an all-pro. And I still think he's getting better. I'm not going to go from 90 to 1. You can go back and listen from 90 to 31 at the beginning of this episode if you want that. But our top 30 Green Bay Packers, number 30, Marshawn Lloyd, followed by Carl Brooks, LVN, Javon Bullard, Malik Willis, Jordan Morgan, Carrington Valentine, Dontavian Wicks, Brandon McManus, Keyshawn Nixon, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, Matthew Golden, Nate Hobbs, Quay Walker. At 15, Romeo Dobbs, followed by Evan Williams, Aaron Banks, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson, Elton Jenkins, Kenny Clark, Jaden Reed, Rashawn Gary, Tucker Kraft, Edgerrin Cooper at 5, Jordan Love at 4, Josh Jacobs at 3, Zach Tom at 2, and Xavier McKinney at number 1. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me for this entire series. Shout out to our All-Pro and Hall of Fame members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wayne, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Wong, Peter Ritaka, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Gessford, Dylan Pat Scott, SoCal Pack, Chris Rager, Izzy Roberts, Ian Ewing, Carlo Delgado, Willie Winkle, Single, Jen Wright, The Gable Storm, Matt Geiger, Pack Attack Cast, Chris Weish, Griff Hen, Blee. Now is a great time to sign up for those Pack a Day Podcast YouTube memberships. Go check that out. I'll see you guys tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.